Jake Gyllenhaal stars in the newest remake of Roadhouse and it's on Amazon Prime right now. Is it any good? Let's find out right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. As I said in the intro, I'll be reviewing Roadhouse today. It just dropped on Amazon Prime. Before we get started in this review, make sure to leave a like, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and Letterboxd. I'm active on all those a lot. And I'm going to read you guys a quick plot synopsis of the movie, just so you know what it is about. Ex-UFC fighter Dalton takes a job as a bouncer at a Florida Keys roadhouse, only to discover that this paradise is not at all what it seems. And before we get started talking about the newest Roadhouse, I do want to spend, a little bit talking about the original Roadhouse, my thoughts on that. I watched it for the first time a couple days ago, and I think it's great. Sure, it's over the top, silly action, but Patrick Swayze, man, he's badass in that movie, and I think it got across what it wanted to do, and I think it worked for its time. When we talk about this new one, I'm not sure if a Roadhouse movie works in this new day and age, new generation. Because I feel like it worked back then because that's what they did. They fought each other with their fists a lot. Now we just have guns and all that, and that's what a lot of this movie is. A lot of pulling out the guns, and Jake Gyllenhaal's like, "Nah, we're gonna fight," and I'm like, "Okay," but yeah, I think the original Roadhouse is great, and if we're gonna compare them, I like the original a lot more than this one. This one didn't even get close to the original for me. But that being said, I don't think it's bad. I enjoyed a lot of moments in here. And I do want to talk about the beginning of this film because supposedly, I didn't know this before I watched it, but Post Malone is actually in the beginning of this film for like a little cameo. And I had no idea that he was going to be in this. He's my favorite artist. And even if it was just a little cameo, I thought it was really cool to see him in here. He also has a new song that's featured in the beginning of the film and the end of the film, which I did like. I can't wait till that officially comes out so I can listen to that because I thought it was a pretty good song. And I actually thought that Post Malone was going to fight Jake Gyllenhaal's character Dalton in this, but I guess he didn't get paid enough for that because they didn't end up fighting. But that would have been cool. I would have loved to see them fight. That would have been so. I don't know, because it would have been cool to see Dalton just beat the crap out of Post Malone. But at the same time, I don't want Post Malone to get beaten because he already had a little fight in the beginning. And I do want to say the script of this movie, even though I didn't go into the movie for the script, I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be a good script. It was, the script was worse than I thought it was going to be. Let's just say that. It's easily the worst part of the movie because, when you're watching this movie, you're just here for, when Jake is fighting someone, when Dalton's going to fight someone, you're like, that's easily the best part of the movie. And yeah, that is the best part of the movie. But you got to have good stuff in between those. You got to have good character moments and you got to build up your characters, your side characters, so I care about them. And I felt like that was easily the worst part because after, the action scenes, there's other scenes in here that I just didn't care for. It started moving so slow when there wasn't any action. And when you have these scenes with characters you don't really care about, it starts moving slower and slower and slower. And I feel like that was the biggest issue here for me. Sure, I cared about Dalton, but I didn't care about any other side characters. And I feel like the original Roadhouse did a better job for me caring about the side characters. The only side character I did care about in this was Jake Gyllenhaal's. He met this little girl at this bookstore, and I thought that little relationship was, the best part of the side character relationships. Other than that, I didn't care. The script didn't, make me care about them. That's why I felt like the script was worse than it could have been. It could have been just an okay script, but I thought it was a really bad script. And just like the original Roadhouse, this one is very silly. And surprisingly, the remake is more silly than the original. I didn't know it could get more silly, but there's a lot of rambunctious and crazy stuff that happens in this movie. I don't even know how to explain what happens. There's a lot of twists and turns. There's boats flying everywhere. People are flying everywhere. And people are getting stakes in their bodies. I was like, what is going on here? The characters are really very silly. We'll get to Conor McGregor in a few minutes, but the action and some of the camera movements and angles are weird. Like some of the cuts, I don't know. I don't know if it was the cuts or the camera movements that were just throwing me off. But I didn't like how they shot the action. I thought the action was a little too choppy for me, and I think that had to do with too much cutting and too much movement of the camera. There were some first person angles that I did like, but I don't know. I think it was some of the camera cutting, and I think it was just overcut in my opinion. Some of the action scenes, because the original, it's just like full action. Sure, there's some cuts in there when they're fighting, but this was a lot of cuts. And there is a scene on a highway where there's a car driving at Jake Gyllenhaal, and it backs up to him really fast, and there's like some extreme extreme cuts in there that I just didn't like. It just made me a little bit nauseous watching the movie. And I will say this is a true popcorn flick. If you're gonna turn this on, get some popcorn, get some snacks, and I think you'll enjoy it a little bit more. And this didn't go to theaters. I wish it kind of did, because I feel like I would have enjoyed the environment, especially with some movie theater popcorn. That would have made the movie a little bit better for me. And yeah, some of the action, as I said, very silly. That's what makes it a popcorn flick. But I was surprised it was as silly as it was. Like, you'll see some of the movements and some of the action here. I wish some of the action was a bit better. Some action scenes are pretty cool, but some are a little bit lackluster. And I felt like, it could have been a lot better. Now let's get to the cast. I'm just going to talk about the two main leads, which is Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor. Jake Gyllenhaal, I love Jake Gyllenhaal in any single movie that he's in. I feel like he nails every single role, and he's easily the best part of the movie, the character that we care about the most, Dalton. Dalton was, handled extremely well by Patrick Swayze in the original. He was extremely badass. And Dalton in this one is more serious than I was expecting at times, especially in the beginning. But I think it's because he's dealing with, that tough past that they included in this one. Because, in the first one, they talk about his past a little bit, but they don't really delve into it. In this one, you do delve into it a little bit more with a little bit of flashbacks. And he's kind of depressed. He's like, he has nothing to live for at the beginning. He parks his car on a train track waiting to get run over, but then he doesn't. He's like, oh, this is a sign or something. Then he goes to work at the Roadhouse. And so I loved, kind of how they explored his past just a little bit more. I loved Jake's action. Man was just enjoying himself. And I loved how badass he finally got, because I was waiting for him to become a real badass. And once you get to that second hour, he does. And he takes things into his own hands. And he's like, you piss me off, so I'm just going to start, punching people, start killing people, and that's what he does. That side of Jake Gyllenhaal's Dalton reminded me of Patrick Swayze's Dalton, which is when I finally got on board, because the first half, it was a little bit, it was really choppy for me in that first half. The second half, I thought we got into more of the fun stuff and more of the side of Dalton that I wanted to see. So I thought the second half was a lot more than the first half. And Conor McGregor, I was a little bit worried seeing him in here. The trailer, I thought he looked hilarious, and he's absolutely hilarious in the movie. Like, I don't know if he was told to act how he did in this movie, but if he was told to act like this, then I think he did a great job at the over-the-top villain that he was playing, because it was something else. Like, he was really over the top. Like, his first scene, you see his bare ass buttocks, and I'm like, what the hell? Why are we seeing his bare bottom? This is not what I signed up for. And then every single line that comes out of his mouth, I don't know. I don't think that he should act like that if he does act again, because that was a little silly for me. As I said, this is more silly than the first one, and I think that contributes all to Conor McGregor's acting. I don't know if he was told to act like that, but man was really on something. I need whatever drugs Conor McGregor took before he went on set, because God, I don't know. I don't think anyone's going to be prepared for how he's acting. He's crazy in here. And, I don't think anyone believes that Jake Gyllenhaal would beat Conor McGregor in a real fight. But, for the movie's sake, I guess you just got to do it. Dalton's going to win kind of almost every fight. He does lose a little bit in here, but Dalton wins almost every fight in the original and this one. Conor McGregor, Jake Gyllenhaal, I love seeing them go at it in the end. As I said, some of the action was a little underwhelming, but I did like their final fight. So I thought that was pretty cool. So overall, the new Roadhouse, it was a little disappointing for me. It's not as good as the original, but I sure had a fun time. The first half moved a little too slow for me. It was a little choppy, but that second half made up for it. Dalton became a badass. Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor were going at it. Conor McGregor was absolutely hilarious. Jake Gyllenhaal, absolutely badass in that second half. So Roadhouse, I'm going to give it a strong 6.5 out of 10. I'll probably watch it again, maybe skip a little bit of that first half because it moved a little bit slow for me. But yeah, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he did a great job portraying a new take on Dalton. The camera work, editing were a little bit weird here, but still, I had a fun time, a decent time here. So let me know, did you guys watch the new Roadhouse on Amazon Prime? If you did, leave your thoughts down below in the comments. If you did enjoy my review, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, it helps a lot. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.